As actors, we get to rely on scripts to tell us what to do.
Like when to slap someone across the face and when to let someone slap you.
But we don't need a script to tell us to help someone in need.
The SAG Foundation was founded to do just that, to help performers with life's unscripted moments and to give back to our communities.
Over the past decade, the SAG Foundation has given millions in financial and medical assistance to SAG-AFTRA performers and their families.
Last year, more than 25,000 union performers attended over 500 SAG Foundation Q&As, seminars, and workshops.
And SAG Foundation Book Pals read to over 60,000 children in schools every month nationwide.
Do you know how much SAG-AFTRA members pay for all these resources and programs? Zero.
Zero.
Zilch.
Nada.
Do you know how much of our union dues go to the SAG Foundation? Zero.
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 The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit that relies solely on donations, so it is vital that those who are able to help give what they can.
And you've been giving since the SAG Foundation was founded in 1985.
I love 1985.
Out of Africa.
The Color Purple. The Goonies.
The Cosby Show.
Family Ties.
The Golden Girls.
What?
So many truly fantastic performances since then.
We have a wonderful history and a beautiful tradition of being there for one another.
If you need help, it's here for you.
And if you can help, please give.
Like every great production, we are at our best when we all act
Together.
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 So please, act now.
On? No. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, guys. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jessie. I run the Conversations program for the SAG Foundation. I just wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I just would like to remind everyone to please turn off cell phones or any other potentially noisy electronics. We are thrilled to have this group here tonight to share their experiences of working in the industry. We are going to go till around 8:30 tonight. We are live streaming, so if you hear any reference to our online audience, that is why. And we will be posting this in our video gallery in the next day or so if you'd like to share the link so your friends can watch and take a look. So at this time, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our moderator from Variety, Jenelle Riley.
Good evening, everyone. As Jessie just said, my name is Jenelle Riley. I'm the Associate Features Editor at Variety. I am thrilled to welcome you to the SAG Foundation event with four amazing actors who I'm sure you recognize. I want to start off by introducing an actor whose resume ranges from comedies like Revenge of the Nerds and Moonlighting to his current work on The New Girl to acclaimed turns in films like Ray, Curtis Armstrong. Oh, this is an actress who is so memorable in films like Little Miss Sunshine and Donnie Darko. She can play horrible people, but she's really very nice. You can see her every week now on the Mindy project, Beth Grant. An actor you might recognize from his heralded turns in The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, one of my favorite series of all time, and such films as How Stella Got Her Groove Back and The Main Event, Richard Lawson. This is a SAG Award nominee for his turn as a member of the In the Bedroom ensemble. He's, of course, been seen on Lost, The Mentalist, in wonderful films like Another Earth. He also served a term on SAG's board of directors. So talk to him about your dues. William Mapother. thank you all so much for being here, especially as I know at least one of you has a flight to catch, and one, maybe two of you have season finales airing tonight. So I think I think the New Girl finale is tonight too, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, right. Yeah, I forgot. Yes.
So we'll try and get you home in time.
I'm not in it, but which is why I wasn't thinking about it.
Because it's all about you.
It's all about me.
I want to start by asking, because this is a SAG audience, how did you get your SAG card?
I got my SAG card in '83 doing Risky Business, which was my first movie.
Wow, it's all downhill from there.
I had been doing stage up to that point, and then I was doing a play in New York and got an audition for that movie, and that was how I got my SAG card.
Wow, that was your first movie. That was a big role.
Yeah, I was
amazing.
lucky. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
The whole luck thing.
Mine was the pilot of BJ and the Bear in 1902.
And which one were you?
I was Mary the waitress, a role I was to duplicate many times, yes.
The first film I was in was Dirty Harry back in 1970, I believe. I think my SAG card number is 00042 or something like that.
I got my SAG card on a 1998 movie, Without Limits, a terrific movie that Robert Towne wrote and directed with Donald Sutherland and Billy Crudup.
Did you shoot that in Oregon?
Yeah, we did. We shot it at the University of Oregon.
Alumni, so therefore you win. So I want to start at the beginning. When were you first bitten by the acting bug and realized you wanted to do this as a career? And what sort of career did you envision for yourself? Was it theater, film, TV? Were there any particular actors whose careers you wanted to emulate to a certain degree?
So we just going down this way?
Okay.
I wanted to be a stage actor. That was my dream. I don't know why, but the idea of doing movies never occurred to me. I admired actors. I was raised in Detroit. There were a number of very good theaters there, and I, from a very early age, went to the theater. So, as crazy as it seems, you know, a lot of people tend to think of stage as being a step towards something else. That was the goal for me, and I don't even know why, but it was an early obsession. And I would say there was an local actor named John Sterling Arnold, who I saw in Cyrano de Bergerac, and that changed my life.
I was completely the opposite. I just wanted to be a movie star. Mine started, funnily enough, when I was about 3 years old, and my uncle came home from the Navy, and Mama had taught me this song, "Oh, where have you been, Billy boy, Billy boy?" I could sing every verse for you now. And my uncle was an All-American football player, really handsome, and he had on that Navy uniform, and he was squatted down in front of me, and he was listening to that song, and then he applauded, and I was hooked. I wanted to do that for the rest of my life, particularly to beautiful boys. And so I wanted to be Marilyn Monroe and Joan Crawford and all. And Richard and I had the same acting teacher, Milton Gonzalez, and Milton, browbeat me into understanding that I'm a character actress. And it was a bitter pill to swallow. But once I did, then funnily enough, William and I worked together on, you said it was your second film, he was a PA.
Yeah.
And I was in Rain Man, was my first studio feature film, and I worked with William, and he was so sweet to me. I was so nervous, and I remember him particularly being kind to me, so it's funny that we're all here tonight. And so anyway, I love my life as a character actress. Now, there was another part of the question.
I think you answered it. Who you wanted to emulate? And
I always emulate. After I got past the Marilyn Monroe, Joan Crawford, I always thought Jack Nicholson. That's
actually a good choice. I guess for me, it wasn't about acting. I went into the service. I was a football player and went to college. Dropped out of my second year of college. I was going to go into business real quick with my cousin, bought a furniture moving truck, and we went into business. 3 months later, I got drafted, went into the service, went to Vietnam, and came back. And when I came back, I said, well, you know, a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. So I was in the cafeteria playing bid whist, and there were these people there that were on the debate team, and I said, well, okay, debate is cool. It's a great start for being a lawyer. So I went to the speech department, and while I was sitting there, I heard this giant of a woman walking down the hallway, and she walked right into the room, and I was sitting with my back to the door, and she said, whose voice is that? And no one said anything, and I turned around, I said, so who are you looking for? That's it. What are you doing at 3:30 today? I said, she said, good, come to room 708.
So you got drafted again.
I got drafted into Reader's Theater, and we did Antigone, and it was my first experience with an audience, and it was like, wow, this is interesting. So for the next 2 years, I was undefeated in forensics. I was a state champion. Was then asked to be in a play, Golden Boy, and I was a little bit too, I don't know, dumb, naive, scared, whatever, and I just said yes. And I started working in the theater. And then went across the bay and did No Place to Be Somebody. And from there, my first film was Dirty Harry, from the director seeing me in No Place to Be Somebody. And so theater was my base. Now it's interesting, the question, you know, who do you emulate, or who did you want to emulate? I didn't have any, I mean, the only actor that I knew was Sidney Poitier, because it was a time before blaxploitation films. So, you know, I had to create or find images, different people, mentors. And so I had a lot of actors that I really appreciated their work over the years. And then I met Milton Katselas and realized that I had a dream, and that was to create my own career. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 45 years.
What strikes me as I listen to these three is that I'm reminded by what I've been reminded of so many times before, is that every actor has his or her own path into our career. That there's not a right way or a wrong way to do it, or if someone starts late or starts early or comes from left field, that there's no reason that they can't continue to find work. It's really remarkable, because mine is different as well. Excuse me, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and went to college. I was an English major, and I loved movies from an early age. I didn't realize how much until I started running into my ex-girlfriends, and they reminded me that I would drag them to all the screenings when we would watch movies at home. I was constantly shushing them, and so I always intended to write and direct. And I got out of college, and I was a production assistant on a few films, one of which was Rain Man. And then I left the business and said, you know what, I need an opportunity to get in a van and drive around the country the way my friends did, because I started working right away. So my version of that was teaching junior high and high school in East LA for 3 years. And I did that for a while, and then realized the kids were learning more than I was. And, excuse me, that I was learning more than the kids were. That's the way that joke's supposed to go. And so then I started back in on the periphery of the industry, and I did historical research for a screenwriter. And then I felt that I was in a bit of a rut at age 30. I was living out here, social, psychological, career rut, and I moved to New York. And while I was there, I took a couple scene study classes, and it blew my mind. I never imagined that acting could be this much fun and this intellectually challenging. So I came back to LA, and I directed an off-Broadway play. And I came back to LA, and I audited some classes around LA that I didn't really like, and then I got lucky, and I happened to watch a class at a Meisner, 2-year Meisner studio in Santa Monica, the Baron Brown studio, and something about it struck me, and I went to the 2-year program there, and it changed my life, not only professionally, but personally. And I've been acting ever since.
Forgive me, sir.
Sorry, just to finish, so my point was that I didn't finish that program until I was about 33. So I'm saying this to anyone out in the audience or anyone who might watch the recording, that there is no right or wrong way to do it. You're never too soon, you're never too early, that we all have a different story to tell and a different path to how we got here.
That was actually going to be my question. Were you the oldest person studying at that time?
Yes, I was. Would you want to make something of it?
I didn't start studying with Milton until I was 33.
Yeah, so no, I think
and I did Rain Man at 38. So.
I was the oldest in my class, but I think there might have been 1 or 2 people who were older, taking classes at the studio. But I definitely was, and at times I thought, geez, I'm a little bit behind the curve, but it's what I wanted to do.
There is no curve. Dreams don't have expiration dates. I don't care how old you are. Marla Gibbs, most of you know her from being on primetime television for 20 years. She didn't start acting until she was 42, and she got the Jeffersons when she was 44. And then for the next 20 years, and still to this day, she's still working, and she's one of the youngest, spryest people you'll ever meet. So, there is no limit to your dream. If you have a dream, and I don't care how old you are, or what your body type is, how many scars you got, hair lips, receding hairlines, whatever it is, there are people out there in the world who are glad to see you because you represent them.
You mentioned that it sort of took you a while to come to acting, and it's a tough business, and if you look at the numbers, they're not encouraging. I'm curious, how did your families and friends feel when you came out as wanting to be an actor? and did you ever consider anything else?
I considered, I wanted to be a journalist. That was the only other thing I ever wanted to do. When I decided that I wanted to be an actor, we're talking, I came to it very young. I was high school, middle school probably. It was that early that I decided I wanted to do this. My parents adored me, but there were limits, and that was one of them. They felt very strongly that I needed to go to college and do a serious, get my degree so I'd have something to fall back on. And I didn't want to do that, but I went 1 year to a regular college, basically for them. And then auditioned for an academy, a 2-year academy, which used to exist right outside of Detroit, which was an English school that had been transported here. It was a strange, long story, which I won't go into. But anyway, it was connected to a regional theater in Michigan. And that was where I got my training, was at this school. But when I was at Western Michigan, which was the college where I went 1 year, I did a couple of plays there. My parents came. And to give them credit, my father afterwards said, I get it. And they supported me ever after. I mean, I'm very lucky in that regard.
Literally supported you, like?
Well, no. Well, for a while, yeah. But
I don't mean now.
No. That reminds me, the check is late this month. But at the time, because I went, even when I was at the academy with a lot of other people my age, the stories I heard about their parents, basically throwing them out in some cases, saying that this was just... The irony of it in my case was my father was an executive at Chrysler Corporation. And now, because of the fact that I've been an actor all these years, I have a pension and health care, and Chrysler cut him off completely. And after all the years that he worked at the steady job, he wound up, having to live on my mother's teacher's health care. So, he never complains about it anymore that I'm doing this.
I did get a lot of support for aspiring to be a movie star. But when I decided to become an actor, not so much. In fact, I remember Rain Man, my theme tonight, but it was a big deal to me because I had this breakthrough in class of accepting myself as a character actress and doing Flo from, what's it? I can't think of it.
Alice.
Yeah, from Alice. And so right after that was when I got Rain Man. And when it came out, the newspaper did a big article in the Raleigh News and Observer, and I said, Mama, they're going to have pictures in the paper. And she said, oh, I hope they're pretty pictures. Like, she couldn't stand, why do you want to, I remember on Coach, I had a recurring role as a maid, and she said, can't you be a teacher? Can't you talk to them and make you a teacher? I mean, she just couldn't understand being a character actress, she couldn't understand that. But I had a profound spiritual experience after working with Milton on this and just knowing and understanding that I was a character actress, but just having such a hard time with it. And I did this meditation, and I said to my inner guide, take me to the energy that's blocking me from accepting this. And so we went to this white clapboard house out in the country, and I came to the door with no makeup on and my hair in a ponytail, a house dress, and I said to me, come in, we've been waiting for you. And I went in and I looked around the house and I left, and I came out of the meditation and I understood that being a character actress is the highest calling for me that could ever be. Because like William was saying, that these characters are you, anyway, we're all saying the same thing, that these characters need us to tell their stories. Like, at the time I remember thinking, well, Farrah Fawcett can't do that. I can do it because of my square jaw and my whatever, angular features. And so once I accepted it as a high calling, then I've been like a house on fire ever since, and I've never stopped working. Once I got my casting, I have never stopped, and I always think I'm not going to work again, of course, with every job, but the fact is that since 1986, I have never stopped working. So, but I think, and it was all about casting. But so I did, and ultimately I got support, back to Rain Man again. My father was dying, and but he lived long enough to see Rain Man and to go into the theater and see it. And he was so sick, and he reached over and took my hand when my scene happened, and he watched it. And then I left, and he passed away knowing that I was going to be okay. And that was the first time in his life he ever knew I was going to be okay. So, yeah, I did get support. And I think ultimately, yeah, they got it.
One of the things that I hate more than anything else, one expression, is, the struggling actor. The concept of that is just deplorable to me. Milton. He agrees.
He agrees.
Because
Timing.
the reason why I hate that expression is I came into this business in '69 during the so-called blaxploitation period, when you look across the horizon and there wasn't much there. And so I realized early on that I had to be, I can't think of that guy's name, who built the hotel in the Las Vegas desert, which is now
Bugsy Siegel?
Bugsy Siegel. He built a hotel for people to gamble in the desert, and people came. And I realized that I had to build my hotels in the desert. I had to put it in place. I had to make it happen. I'm responsible for what happens to me in my career. What struggle is that? Challenged? Yeah. Nobody owes me anything. I understood that. I understood that when I walked into, when I read a script, that the lead character was what my casting was, in my mind, for sure. It said all the stuff and asked for all the qualities that I possess. But I realized the reality of the business. And so therefore, I put a wig on, put scars on my face, talked with a lisp or a stutter, walked with a limp, and I was like the 9th or 10th or 11th person on the call sheet. But I knew that I would be 11 and then 10 and then 9, etc. And the day that I was number 1 on the call sheet, I did a jig because I realized that I had to make it happen, and I made it happen. It's what I teach today, is the fact that your career, you are responsible for. So the whole aspect of the struggling actor is just a ridiculous concept, because I don't care what business you're in. You're going to have the same challenges, similar, different. Go to med school, go to law school. Go to any kind of specialty. You're going to school until you won't start practicing until you're damn near 30. And you won't finish paying for your education until you're damn near 50. So why would I have a complaint about the most, as she said, the most honorable profession there is? I know that I can change an opinion with a part, with a line, with an attitude, with a fashion, with a viewpoint. You can change the world. Art is the only thing that can change things instantly. Politics can't. Churches don't. Art does. And so therefore, what you put into place by your own sense of ethics and everything else is really an honorable thing to do. All the people in your lives that are struggling because they love you so much and they want you to be sure and, get that plan B job and all that, it's your job to educate them about what you do and the honor of what you do, so they become teammates and partners and not scared relatives who say, oh my God, I just don't want to see Beth struggle so much, or Richard or whoever. This is a great business. Make sure that you can support yourself by finding the thing that you can create and you can own, and it can be on your terms forever. Don't just find a job, find the job for you, postulate your career, see clearly what you want, and then go get it. But don't accept the concept of struggling actor, please. That's like, I accept welfare. No.
Pass.
We're going to start with you this time. I know the term big break is a misnomer. It's more like I've been told many little breaks sort of along the way. But was there a particular job or a moment where you really felt, you know, you had made it and you belonged as an actor?
Well, I would say that I've had two roles that had significant effects on my career, but I don't know how to answer the second part of your question, which is that I made it or I belonged as an actor. So I would separate out those two. So the first one is a movie called In the Bedroom with Marissa Tomei, Sissy Spacek, Tom Wilkinson. A little independent we made in Maine. Didn't have a distributor. We made what I like to call sub-minimum. And then through a series of fortuitous breaks, another Miramax movie that December tanked in front of critics. And first we got into Sundance, then Miramax bought us, then another Miramax movie tanked, and Harvey decided to put all his Oscar marketing money on us. And that was the first one. The second was getting lost. And so for me, it has been a series of maybe small incremental jobs that moved the ball forward, but those two had the most significant effect. And I don't know if I've ever felt that I've made it. Curtis and I were talking in the back room about the fact that we don't know when we're going to work next. It's been 3 months for me, and I might have a slightly different view on it than Richard does, but I've never felt that I've quite made it. But I think after In the Bedroom, I felt that I belonged as an actor. I belonged, at least I could share a screen or a stage with other actors who were highly regarded, and I belonged internally. It was something that I really wanted to pursue. Oh, you go ahead. Give We always have time for applause.
I can't help but notice those are two, I hate to use the word villain roles, but okay, the guy in The Bedroom is kind of a bad guy. And then...
Well, you're walking down a very dangerous path because, as any actor will tell you, we have to climb in from the back of our character and see the world through their eyes. And I don't think I've ever played a villain. I may play someone who behaved in an unethical fashion, but how often do we know people in our lives who behave in ways that we may not agree with, and yet they are able to offer a perfectly justifiable reason as to why they did it? So I could sit here and talk to you about the other characters in The Bedroom and how they behaved unethically, and how certainly our judicial system would say that Tom Wilkinson kidnapping me and then murdering me in cold blood was...
Spoiler alert.
Was...
It's been 10
the movie is 14 years old. The spoiler alert expired 12 years ago. But my point is, and I don't know how these three feel about this, but that I don't feel I've ever played a villain. And if I do, you know, you get a lot of actors talk about this, then you get the Snively Whiplash, what was his name? The guy in Wacky Racers or whatever who had the curly mustache. So I don't feel that way, and I can talk about Ethan, but I want to let these guys talk about it.
I mean, Lost was sort of the perfect show that never really had a villain, or people you thought were villains you later
the
weren't.
The characters people loved, we saw two of them commit cold-blooded murder on the screen. So it's...
At the same time, I'm curious, because Lost was such a big show. While you were appearing on that, did people like cross the street when they saw you, or?
A little bit. I got that. There were a couple after In the Bedroom. The character really got under women's skin. I remember I was once in the grocery store and a woman was putting something back on the aisle, and she saw me and jumped. And then I was at a party once, and this cute girl came up to me. This just crushed me. She came up to me and she said, "You know, when I came in here half hour ago, I didn't like you, and I just realized why." And I thought, because she remembered that I was on the show, and I thought, I can't curse, but I would say, how many cute girls out there never realized why? They just never liked me. So, but generally, people are generally pretty good about separating the character from the actor.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about, you know, in terms of characters and creating characters and not judging or objectifying, you know, a character because he happens to be the antagonist or the antagonist in a film. There is no film without an antagonist, and it helps it drives the film. And so, you know, I think some of the more interesting roles over the course of time have been those darker characters, you know, and but I think your approach to it is really incredible. Thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the fun. I've played a lot of bad guys, and I apparently have
And they
a
are
face.
bad.
Yeah, they are bad, very bad. And I have a kind of face that people just love to hate, and when I'm not smiling.
Not me.
And and I have. It is really fun when you can dig in there and find their side of the story. Exactly. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. So I agree.
I played a character that Milton directed, Streamers in Westwood, at the Westwood Playhouse. And over the course of, we opened in December and we closed at the end of April. And during the course of that time, 14 people were carried out on stretchers from having a heart attack or passing out. Wow. And it was because I killed 2 people in the play, Charlie Durning and Richard Thomas. And so talk about a villain, it's probably the classic villain where I would, you know, the parking lot was down, you know, it was in the bank building, and so it was like 7 floors down of parking. So they sort of, it was very slow getting out of the building. And when I would walk to my car, people would roll up the window and they would go like, oh God, Harry, here he goes.
You know, my husband, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Steven, you have no idea how many jobs I got from that. Steven Spielberg did not want to talk to me that night. He was there opening night, and Amy Irving was his wife at the time, and said, and I came out, and I was talking to Jack Palance, and who's a mountain of a man, and Amy said, see, Steven, he's not like that. And Steven said, man, I did not want to talk to you because there's no way you could play that part without being at least a little bit like that guy. But you're nothing like that guy. So, you know, it's like, villains are great.
My husband's also played a lot of villains, and he did this one on X-Files. He was a kidnapper, and we went to the park after it aired, and we literally saw a mother take her children like this. And I said, what? And then we said, oh my God, she watched X-Files. And I did a pedophile. X-Files.
Oh, X-Files. Hey, there's all kind of new shows on. I thought there was a new one called Sex Files. What channel? No.
I did Criminal Minds, and they asked me to play this kidnapper pedophile and that burned children in the crematorium. I mean, that's like the worst one. And I was like, it took my breath away to even get the invitation to do the role. And Matthew Gray Gubler was directing, and he said, this is, I'm going to do it like a Grimm's fairy tale. And this is a cautionary tale for parents to watch their children, because people like this character are out there. And there are 50 to 100,000 kidnappings a year in this country. And I talked to my husband about it, and he had done another kidnapper, and he said, that's Michael back there, Michael Chivo, ladies and gentlemen.
Back, yeah. You'll notice no one is sitting around.
Look at that
face. He said, just say the lines very simply, just keep it very simple, and tell her truth. And of course I found in her history, you know, how she had been abused as a child and in a crematorium and so on and so forth. I found all of that, and I just kept it very, very simple. And I swear, I'm not thinking anything particularly bad when people are fainting over, you know, my taking this little girl. So yeah, it's just, we're all saying, here, here, you go. I'm done.
Curtis, I want to mention one thing that you just reminded me of real quickly, is the FBI once contacted John Malkovich because he plays characters like this so effectively, and asked him how he's able to do it so that they could better understand the mind of people like that, and profiling them and things. And he gave one very simple answer. He said, I don't judge them.
Man, geez.
Did you see Booger as a villain?
No, I mean, this is. I don't ever get to play anything like any of these people do. I mean, you know, it doesn't take. Well,
you did a short film called Conversations.
Yes. Oh, wow. I'm amazed you saw that. Yeah. Okay, that was one. But really, I mean, I mean, you know, it gets into the area of, I guess, of typecasting in some ways. I forgot what the question was initially.
Your big break.
But I think it was the big break question. So, you remember?
Lord,
It was ages ago. But that question was, for me, it was Revenge of the Nerds was the first one that, I mean, the Risky Business was a big one, but Revenge of the Nerds is the one that stuck. And I have subsequently been, even when I've played villains, and I have played villains, and in fact I'm playing one now on Supernatural, a truly evil character as far as the fans of that show are concerned. I'm not saying he's evil. I would never judge. But there are people who think he's evil, and I'm not going to argue with them. But what I have discovered is, and including in this case, that when I'm asked to do a villain, I'm asked to do a funny villain. So he may be a horrible, I mean, he may kill people, he may be a nightmare of a person, but at least he's funny. So that's, you know, now on the other hand, talking about what you were talking about finding who this person is, whoever it is that you're playing, one of the things that was interesting was for me, was in my academy, the school that I went to, one of the things that we were taught, one of the few that stuck with me after many years, was the idea of writing a biography of your character. You know, that it's not going to mean anything to anybody else, but to you it'll mean something. You'll find some stuff within this character, and it will help you in the long run. And that was something that I did for years and years, where I kept journals, I wrote down biographies of these people. In stage work, I was doing this. But then when I started doing movies, I'm doing Revenge of the Nerds, and I'm dutifully writing my biography of Booger. And I kept it in a journal, and we were working on that movie. One of the things that happened with that movie was we went to Tucson and we had rehearsal for a week, which is unfathomable now. But at the time, they had the writers there, they were doing rewrites, we were working with the director, and they would have us in, each of us individually, we would come in and say, well, who is this guy? The director would do this for Revenge of the Nerds. Who is this, you know, character? And so, you know, as actors, we were all just so thrilled. We were getting an opportunity to really flesh out these cartoon characters. And so I wrote up my biography of Booger, and I would bring it into the meetings, and I'd say, well, this is who he is. It's this guy. And he picks his nose, and he belches, and he's crude, and all that, but he's, you know, this is his past, and this is what it means to him. I found this journal just a few months ago in a crate that I've carried it around for years, decades. And I find this journal from 1984, and I start going through the journal. There's Booger's biography. And I thought, how awesome is this? I get to read who I thought Booger was in 1984. So I read the biography. It was me. I mean, it wasn't even remotely different. It was me. And the thing about it was that at the time, I was looking at it and thinking, I didn't even know at the time that I was just doing, you know, and, you know, basically saying all of these socially unacceptable aspects to his character were to cover up for the fact that Curtis, You know, I mean, I didn't say that because I was trying to think of another character. But that's one of those things that can sort of surprise you about finding roles, is that more often than not, there's some of you in there, and sometimes a lot of you in there, even evil characters.
Do you still pick your nose?
No, only when I'm driving.
That's the worst.
I know. But the thing is, I have to be very careful. I have to be unusually careful. Nobody wants to be caught picking their nose. I get caught picking my nose. Somebody sees me as I'm driving by with my finger up my nose. They're, you know, later on they're saying, you know, I saw Curtis Armstrong. He's just like that guy. I saw him for like 10 seconds. His finger was up his nose. They wouldn't think about that for you, you know. So pick away.
Something I think every actor obsesses over is landing an agent or representation. But I think more important than just getting the agent is finding someone that really understands you and works with you. Have you had any negative experiences with representation, and how do you work with your current reps to sort of navigate your careers?
Well, funnily enough, 3 of us are with the same agent, coincidentally, so we have to be very careful about
Well, if you're with them now, you're probably happy.
I've been with Julia Buckwall for almost 21 years. And Curtis, you've been with her.
I've been with them for not that long, but I've been there for about 12 years, 13 years.
And you've been there.
I've been with Julia Buckwald for, I think, two and a half years, almost 3, maybe.
So you're the baby.
I'm the baby.
I've vicariously been with Julia Buckwald because my daughter has been with Julia for
that's
ever.
hilarious.
That's really funny.
Well, we like Julia.
Julia, thanks for coming out to see all your clients tonight. There in the back row. Give Julia a wave. She didn't even know I was appearing tonight.
Julia looks like that kidnapper from the X-Files.
You were asking about bad experiences?
Well,
or?
you know, just how you finally landed someone that you think understands you and works with you.
Well, again, to reference my acting teacher, he taught us not to just, you know, pick up the phone and call your agent and say anything going on. He'd say, take him a cream puff. And, you know, metaphorically, or a real cream puff. And so I started this relationship with them. I had just come off a television series, and so I had some creds. But I knew what Richard was also saying about I had to continue to create my own work. And I've never kidded myself that I was the kind of actress, I don't know if there is one, especially now, but who could sit and wait for the phone to ring. And so I have always been developing projects, doing theater, because I love theater more than anything. I think all of us would probably, if we closed our eyes and wanted to do one thing, it would be to be in a play. If you could afford to live doing theater, that's what we would all do. But constantly creating, you know, developing my support team, you know, back in the days when we had Rolodexes, you know, building that Rolodex, inviting people to the shows, following up, getting on the phone, calling them, because it's not enough just to send a little postcard in the mail. You got to call, you know, because Jenelle's a very accomplished playwright and producer.
I don't know about very.
Well, I say very. And it's, you know, constant work to recreate yourself every single day. And at this stage of the game, I don't love it every day, but I do it every day. I take the action anyhow, and I just get my attitude right. Our teacher used to say, attitude monitors talent. And I think that's true. When my attitude's good, I do my best work. When it's not, not so much. And so I feel it's up to us. Agents help. Julia negotiates for me like I'm Meryl Streep. I love her as a person, a human being. But she is just an agent, and as she has reminded me, I only get 10%. I mean, she tells me I earn my 90.
I think agents is something, it's like any other relationship, you know, it takes a communication, it takes an understanding, you have to be on the same team, and you have to really be on the same page in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. And so, you know, if you can, if you were a projector and this screen, you were able to project your career, would you be able to do that and say, this is what I see, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, these are the people that I'm going to work with, this is what I'm going to create, write, produce, whatever, whatever. And you have this dream and you go to an agent, you say, listen, I want to share my dream with you, to see if that agent is on your career bus. If that agent is in tandem with you and is part of your team, and you are communicating on a reasonable basis in terms of going down this path that you both mutually agree upon, then what could go wrong? They can't create a career for you, but they can be a great support system. And if you talk and you make a plan to talk on a regular basis, not once a week, but how often do you talk? At least once a month? Just to check in to make sure that you're on the, that you both of you are in agreement with what's going on. You create a healthy relationship with an agent. Some people say, listen, I need a new agent. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Did you manage the relationship you're in with your agent? You're looking for the agent to do for you. What are you doing? Are you bringing new stuff to the table? Are you bringing new ways for them to sell you? And so it's a relationship just like a marriage that you have to really fertilize and work. It just can't sit out there and you can't just wait for the phone to ring. And you can't just expect and depend upon the agent to create your career. Your agent should get in the way of your career because you're creating and doing, and your agent calls and says, hey, I got an audition for you. And you got to move some stuff around in your schedule, or see if they can book it the next day because you're busy, not just waiting by the phone to
ring. I agree with a lot of what Beth and Richard said. I am on my third agent. I had the first one for about 6 or 7 years, and then the second one for about 6 and 7 years, and then now Julia, and I'm on my second manager. Once I make that decision, I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but I tend to try to stay with it. I make that decision very carefully, and then I try to stay with it, and I'm still on good terms with the people I left because I made sure that I informed them that I left at a good time, and it's just because I felt that we didn't feel the enthusiasm for each other that we once did. But the part of what they said that I most agree with is on being proactive, both in your career and in your relationship with your representatives. I'm very careful when I communicate with my representatives to be very upbeat. I give them a lot of acknowledgement. I try to be funny so that they actually look forward to getting my emails. I'm shocked when I hear how often representatives tell me, whether it's agents, managers, my own or others, that some clients are behind in getting them headshots that the representatives have requested, or updating their resumes or anything else. By God, it's the actor's job. Give them the tools to sell you. Make their job as easy as possible. I also look at it as removing any obstacles or excuses that they might have for not finding you an audition. Get rid of those obstacles. And I go so far, because I'm a little bit crazy, I have sent my manager 20 or 21 clips of various shows I've been in. So it's not just a simple reel of 3 to 5 scenes, 20 or 21 clips of scenes from various projects so they can target submit. Because people in this town, as we all know and like to talk about, they don't know something until they see it. So like, oh, William in a suit? I can't picture that. By God, there's a clip of me wearing a suit and a coat and a tie. And then I don't expect my representatives to remember all 21 clips. So I created a grid in Excel that lists the clip, what it's from, the genre, why I sent it to them, everything. So that they can easily look at it and say, oh, we need a comic role for this. We need him in a suit and tie for this. Oh, they need somebody who can do a Southern or Western accent. Let's send him that. Again, the goal is to make it as easy as possible for them. Wow. I mean, these people, you have to also just imagine it from the representative's point of view. They call a casting director. Now, I went and talked to a cast director because I'm interested in their point of view and what I can do to make their job easier. And I asked one of them, it was for, I said, when you get because they were casting a television series, and I said, for a typical guest spot on a series, how many, let's say, how many submissions do you get, either directly or from all the agents and reps around town? And they say probably, let's say 1,000 to 2,000. And I said, all right, let's call it 1,000. How many people can you see for that role? They said 12, 15 on a good day. Actors are so worried about their performance, which they should be, but even if you just get in the room, you are 1 out of 80, approximately 80 people. You got to get in the room, and to do that, you help your reps, and you maintain your connections, like they said, and you you behave proactively to generate your own connections and your own contacts. So what I would say about the representatives is that just as you have to, it shouldn't be this way, but in a way you have to sell your reps. You have to make yourself easy to sell. You create a very positive relationship with them. I also hear representatives talk about how often actors call and say, what's new? Why I haven't gotten this? Why didn't it get that? And then you know what? That makes them not want to take your call. I'm not saying you never say that, but it needs to be a very considered conversation, a very serious one, not a nagging, whining refrain. So that's kind of how I view the relationship. They do get 10%, and it seems counterintuitive that you feel that they wouldn't work for you, because the only way they make money, generally, or they make more if they get you a job. But I find it kind of surprises me when I feel like, golly, my reps aren't working as hard for me as I would like them to. And that may be a completely unreasonable point of view, because one of the hardest things about being an actor is that you are in a vacuum of information. You have no idea if they're making calls or submitting you, or if they're really picking up the phone and telling the casting director, by God, you got to see him. All right, I think I've spoken long enough, sorry.
Well, no, you bring up, yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's take an applause break.
Yeah. I keep cutting off your applause.
But they're our sales team. I mean, that's who they are. And if
Yeah.
we were a CEO in a corporation, which we are CEOs of our own corporation.
That's exactly right.
We have to run the sales team. We have to keep them enthusiastic. And
That's exactly
can't
right.
just browbeat them.
I'm not saying you have to demean yourself or fawn over them or anything else, but it is a partnership, and you need to be a very positive, supportive, proactive partner.
The 3 ingredients to success in this order: politics, personality, craft. Craft is the most sustaining one. That's what keeps it going. But you have to be able to get into the room, you have to be able to stay in the room, and then you have to be able to deliver when you get a chance to do the job. And you have to understand that with your agents, it's the same thing. You have to understand the politics of the business. And you have to be an interesting person, a likable, attitude monitors talent. They got to want to be able to see you. Oh, Richard's coming in today. And it's a good thing because, you know, he brings gifts, he's charming, he's a reasonable person, you know, he has a good attitude, and he's talented. And so those elements will keep you in the game.
I think you need to maybe market that spreadsheet you have. I know you have a few other
It's called
side
Excel.
businesses.
You can get it for free on Google Docs.
No!
No, I mean,
Make an app.
Well, I mean, all right, anyway, go ahead, thanks.
Well, you broached the audition subject, obviously, which is another thing that actors obviously obsess over. Auditioning is actually sort of a separate skill from acting. Are you good at it? Did you have to learn to be good at it? And would you be willing to tell us your worst audition story?
Go.
Well,
you know it's going to be good.
Don't build it up too much.
No. Gosh. Well, we were talking about this earlier when we were in the room, and it is a different skill set. A lot of good actors have trouble auditioning, and I know that I've learned just from experience, not just over the many years, that there are certain things that you do in the room and certain things that you don't do. A lot of it sounds like common sense. I mean, coming into the room with a good attitude, you know, being funny, that kind of, if it's appropriate. I mean, you know, sometimes it's not appropriate. But it's always appropriate to have a good attitude in an audition. To be prepared is always a good idea. You know, so those kinds of things sound like common sense, but they are learned. It's a learned talent, and there, on the other hand, there are so many other aspects to this, and so much of it, however you are guiding your career, you know, when it comes down to these individual things, there are certain things which just you have no control over at all. And as soon as you understand that as an actor, there are certain things, no one is going to cast me as Lear. I can believe that I can play Lear. I can read Lear and go, oh, I know exactly who that man is. It doesn't matter how much I know who he is. It's not going to happen with Curtis Armstrong, but that's all right. There are other roles that I can play which are fine. But when you approach a role, I think when you go in for the audition, if you have that sense of knowing, I mean, if you're in the room, if you're there, then you fall back on the stuff that you know. And if you believe that you know who this character is and you deliver, then that's exactly you doing your job, and that's all you can do. What happens after that is anybody's guess. We were talking about you know, the times where it goes awry, and it certainly does. And I really, I'm sure, I mean, everybody up here has been doing this a long time, and I have numerous disastrous experiences in the audition department. This was not a disastrous one, but it was an interesting thing. That there was a show, I can't remember the show, it was a long-running show, and they called my agent and they said, we have a role that we've written with Curtis in mind. We'd like Curtis to do this role. And my agent said, well, great, let's talk money. And he said, well, no, there's a problem. You know, we need him to come in on this. And they said, but you wrote it for him, right? And they said, yeah, but it's just standard, you know, for the show. They insist on having you come in. You just have to. We can't make exceptions. They tell me this. I go, okay, fine. So I go in. Turns out the director was a guy I worked with on Moonlighting. A number of times on Moonlighting, so I even knew the director. And I went in and I read, and it, you know, it was good. I was prepared, and it was all that. Someone else got it. And this is a story not uncommon. I mean, this is something that has happened to other people. That this is who we want. We want this person. We wrote it for you. And then they cast someone else. Now, why did they cast someone else? Was I really bad? Was I bad at being myself in the room? Did I not get Curtis Armstrong, the essence? Probably not.
You should have read Booger's bio.
That's right. I mean, you know, so that's one of those things. I recently, actually, you know what? I never told you this, but recently, now many years later, someone else calls up, and it was David Spade's show.
Rules of Engagement?
Rules of Engagement. Rules of Engagement. So the Rules of Engagement calls, and they say, we want Curtis Armstrong to play himself. And one of the characters on the show is a man on the show, one of the regulars on the show has a man crush on Curtis Armstrong, who's in town making a movie. And we would like him to do this. So my agent says, so he doesn't have to read, right? This is just like a year and a half ago. And they said, no, we want Curtis Armstrong to come in. So okay, I've got my job, so I go in, and they send me to the wardrobe department, and the wardrobe says, well, you're playing yourself. Just bring in, a couple changes of your clothes, because you know how you dress, and that's great. So I brought in, come the day, I bring in my wardrobe, and she rejected all of it. And I said, "What? You don't like any of it?" And I'm getting, uncomfortable now because it's my clothing, and it's not good enough for them. And she said, "No, I just don't. I don't think your character would wear it." Thank you.
I was afraid you were going to get recast.
I was actually replaced ultimately by Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah.
No, that was a
You're
joke.
Kidding, right?
No.
They really believe that. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I had an audition once that went so well that when I finished, I looked up and everyone in the room was crying, as they were supposed to be, and they stood and they gave me a standing ovation for an audition. That's the truth. Well, I walked out of there. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I mean, you really can't, and the room is very important. Attitude is hugely important. But in the beginning, I was so desperate, and I wanted people to like me so badly, I would prepare jokes that were related to the material.
Oh, please tell me you remember some.
Yeah. Oh, I sure do.
Rain Man.
Well, I
More
did
like...
with Rain Man. Rain Man's a funny story, though, that meditation that I told y'all about. Well, I was up in Big Sur and having another spiritual experience, and we were hiking through where Big Sur was founded, and we came upon this cabin, where they had raised their children, 12 children in this little bitty cabin. And I looked at my husband, I said, they have never played a real pioneer woman. I'm going to do a pioneer woman someday, and I'm not wearing any makeup, and I'm going to be strong as a bull, because whoever a pioneer woman is, they're strong. And so the next morning, I checked my service, and it's my agent. She says, I want you to come back to LA. You've got an audition for Dustin Hoffman's new movie, playing a pioneer woman. Wow. So I went into that audition like hell on wheels. And I passed Barry Levinson in the hallway, and I saw him do a second take, because he saw the strength that and apparently they had seen 700 people in Cincinnati and Chicago and so on. And I didn't really think I was going to get the part, though, because I thought they don't really want that. And I wrote Barry Levinson a note. I mean, I've gone to extreme self-will. But anyway, I got the part. And I said to my agent, well, who do I know on the movie? I couldn't believe that I could get it from the audition. And I figured that if I did it my way, that surely I would not get it. And that, of course, is when we usually do get it, when we can really be authentic. But I've been fired. Have y'all been fired?
Yep.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. I mean, I've been fired more than once, and it never feels good. Once on Mad About You, I mean, I had killed at the audition. We had the table read, and every time it came to me, I'd see everybody's heads turn, no laughter. And it was a big special episode right toward the end of the run, and Carol O'Connor was on the show, and all these big, impressive people. And I got back to my trailer, and I called my husband. I said, I think I'm going to get fired. He said, well, they'll let you rehearse. Surely you'll get to rehearse. I said, no, I think I'm going to get fired. It wasn't funny. And so pretty soon, I never got called to the set. I went in to get a soda, and the AD came flying over to me. And he said, can I help you? Can I help you? And I said, oh, secret meetings, huh? And he says, yes, can I help? I said, just getting a soda. So I leave, and I'm sitting in my trailer, and after a while, Julia calls, and she says, Bethy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, oh, no, I'm getting fired. I started sobbing and crying, You cannot believe how much I cried. I couldn't leave the trailer. I couldn't go home. I couldn't stop crying. The casting director had to come to the trailer. I assure you this has nothing to do with you. They did, in fact, cut the part down to 2 lines and replace me with someone who was 80 years old. So, I mean, it didn't have anything to do with me, but I just couldn't get out of the trailer until the sun went down, and then I snuck out to the car, drove home. But it's not the only time I've been fired and cut from movies. And, you know, all of that stuff, you roll with it. You just learn to roll with it. I mean, I've got a million stories, and but I'm still standing. You know, I'm still standing. I'm 64 years old, and I'm still standing, and we all are. And it's beautiful, and there's nothing I love more than the feeling of first stepping on a stage, and you go into that wonderful unknown place, or between action and cut. And I'm absolutely addicted to it. So it's worth it all.
I think one of the things that I've been teaching, I started teaching for Milton in 1980, and I've been teaching ever since. And so after tens of thousands of students, the whole audition process is very much a part of my universe. And in terms of what people do and the struggles they have with it, it's a very different animal than acting in a scene or, you know, in a film. It's another process, and I think it's misguided in my opinion, because the person who gets the job and does the job in the audition room is not necessarily the best actor for the part, or can't improve upon that sometimes. 5 of my top 10 actors you would have never heard of, because they didn't really know how to do that audition part of the thing. But they were incredible actors. They would change your life. One of the things that I think people do a lot is they go and try to get the part. And that becomes the focus, rather than booking the room. You know, go and book the room. Do what you have to do, prepare, and take your product and go and put it in that room. Because there's so many circumstances that determine why the part is cast by a particular person, and a lot of times it has nothing to do with your talent. It has to do with all the other dynamics of how tall or short, or whether you are a good match, or chemistry, or they owe a job to somebody else, so there's all this political thing going on, and infight. There's so many dynamics. The thing that you can control is how you prepare and whether you go and deliver your product in that room. Because if you can deliver your product, you can walk away. You do your best and forget the rest. And you can walk away clean without any scars, without any your remorse or guilt or shame or whatever about what happened, no matter what happened. If you go in there and deliver your product, they could hate it. But if you delivered what you felt like you needed and wanted to deliver, you did a great thing. I've always been able to walk away from that. It's when I didn't prepare so much that you drag those skeletons behind you, and they build up over the course of time. And after a while, you can literally see an actor walk into the room and all the skeletons of their failed auditions from the past walk in with them because they carry it around. Whereas if you do your best and forget the rest, you will have a great career because you'll know just where to put your energy and go in and deliver your best work. And you'll get the jobs that belong to you, and the ones that don't, you don't get it, but you move on and you keep it moving. Otherwise, then it really becomes a struggling actor. You know what I'm saying? It's up to you.
I agree with what they've said. I've gotten to the point where it's very difficult, if not impossible, for me to gauge how I've done. You know, even a standing ovation doesn't get you anything. One helpful thing I found to remember is that everybody else in the room has a job. You're the only one who has nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose. Also, I've found it helpful to think of it not as an audition, but my performance. So it's not a trial. Go ahead and give your performance. And you don't know, as Richard said, how it's going to turn out. There's so many factors involved. Somebody owes somebody a job, as he said, or you've got the wrong hair color. You never know what it is. You just got to go in and absolutely do your best work. And if you're not yourself, if you try to anticipate what they want, you are depriving yourself of the only unique thing you have to offer, which is your sensibility, your imagination, your thought, your preparation. If you don't give them your authentic self, you're not giving them anything. As you might have guessed from my comment about the grid, I'm a believer in taking notes on my auditions. And I believe you have to maximize your time, not only in terms of being proactive and preparing, but when you walk out of an audition, if you don't write down what you could have done better or what you think you didn't do properly, or if you don't write down the feedback that you get, the likelihood that you're going to repeat the same mistakes grows exponentially. So I keep a list of feedback on myself on what I do and don't do well. And through that, I'm able to see a pattern of my own auditioning, mistakes I make repeatedly. And then those mistakes I make a note of and I keep on my phone. So that if I'm going to an audition, I can glance at it and remind myself, be sure to do this, be sure to do this. Take advantage of the things that you think you could have done better to educate the future you so that you can learn and grow.
Can I give you the definition of audition? Two main definitions. One is a trial performance by a singer, actor, dancer to prove suitability or skill. Trial. Most actors go into an audition room like they're on trial. The other definition is the art of hearing.
Really?
The art of hearing is the definition for audition. Anybody have a phone? Look it up. The art of hearing. So that means you're going in and you're receiving data, information, vibe, chemistry. You're listening and you're absorbing it. And then you control it by what you have learned. You're not on trial. They need you. They need you. So it's that 3 to 5 minutes, it's your world. You're in control. They want the next person to walk in to be the answer. And that answer is you until you prove otherwise.
I just want to pick up something, that last thing you said, when I mentioned earlier the casting directors and their point of view. They see 12 to 15 people out of all these submissions. And if I'm the casting director and I've got the director, the producer, maybe an executive or the writer over there, if someone comes in and they don't do a good job, they leave. An actor comes in, gives maybe they're not prepared. They leave. All three of those people either look at me or say, why the hell did you just waste one of our opportunities to find a suitable actor? That's one reason why it's hard for your representative to get you in the room for, if you're not known, or for a role that you're not known for doing. Because I'm a casting director. Do you know how many good actors I know who can fit those 12 spots? I can't afford to put anybody in who's not good. So when you go in, you cannot afford to be unprepared or do your best. Right. And the last thing I'll say is, this is actually what I was going to say off the segue of your comment, they want you to do a good job. The casting director, even, and I'm sure we all have stories about this, cast directors who are looking at their phone, or they're behind the camera and they're reading with your associate and they're looking around and they're directly in your eye line and they behave in ways that may not be conducive to your best performance, but they want you to be fantastic. They want you to blow them away. If for no other reason, then they get to mark that character off their to-do list. They actually want you to be great.
Just one little quick add-on. That's what I mean by book the room. Book the room, you go on their list. good actor, not part right for this, but you go on their list, they call you back. Booking the room means that they're going to continue to call you back. So preparation, prior planning prevents poor performance.
I'm getting that on a shirt. I like that. I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I know there are some finales we have to catch, and you have a plane to catch. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, and thank you guys for being a great audience.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.